Hello, sports fans. Welcome to Super Sports Central. Today, we're going to be going over my Week 2 NFL Power Rankings. So, going over last week's rankings and what those teams did in Week 1. Last week at number 10, I had the Cowboys. They dominated against the Browns 33-17. 9 was the Packers. They lost to the Eagles 34-29. 8 was the Jets. They lost to the 49ers 32-19. 7 was the Bengals. They were upset by the Patriots, losing 16-10. 6 was the Bills. They beat the Cardinals at 34-28. 5 was the Texans. They beat the Colts 29-27. 4 was the Ravens. They lost to the Chiefs 27-20. 3 was the Lions. They beat the Rams 26-20 in overtime. 2 was the 49ers. They beat the Jets 32-19. And 1 was the Chiefs, who beat the Dolphins 27-20. But getting into this week's rankings, coming in at number 10, we've got the Dolphins. So the Dolphins enter my power rankings at number 10 after they beat the Jaguars by a score of 20-17 on a walk-off field goal. Now, the Dolphins didn't play the greatest game, but they did get the win. The offense was solid, but nothing too impressive, although the passing game was good, as they threw for 319 yards, and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle both had over 100 receiving yards. But the Dolphins' run game was not effective, rushing for just 3.2 yards per carry, but the Dolphins' defense was a big part in this win, as they didn't allow a single second-half point and forced a big fumble on Travis Etienne in the red zone. But the Dolphins, after their Week 1 win over the Jaguars, they're at number 10. Ninth, I've got the Buccaneers. So the Buccaneers are another team that enters my top 10 after their 37-20 win over the Commanders. The offense looked great with 37 points. Baker Mayfield threw for 289 yards and a career-high 4 touchdowns. Plus, rookie running back Bucky Irving was good with 62 yards on 9 carries. But this was a great offensive game for the Buccaneers. I know it was against a bad Commanders defense, but this was still impressive. And the Buccaneers, after a very good Week 1 performance, they're at number 9. 8, I've got the Eagles. So they're another team that enters my top 10, and they do so after their 34-29 win over the Packers in Brazil. The Eagles' offense was great with over 400 yards of offense. Jalen Hurts threw 278 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. And free addition running back Saquon Barkley was great in his first game with the Eagles, with 109 rushing yards and 3 total touchdowns. Now, the Eagles' defense still didn't play that well, allowing 29 points and 414 yards of offense. But I do think this Eagles' defense will improve as the season progresses. But the Eagles, after a win over the Packers, they're at number 8. 7, I've got the Cowboys. So the Cowboys move up to 7 after a dominant win over the Browns, 33-17. But the Cowboys controlled this game from start to finish. The offense was good. Dak Prescott, fresh off his new contract, threw for 179 yards and a touchdown. And the Cowboys' run game was solid, but it was really the defense that dominated this game for the Cowboys. As the defense was insane, allowing just 3.3 yards per play, forcing 2 turnovers, they had 6 sacks, and also the Browns had 9 3-and-outs. Plus, the special teams played a role for the Cowboys, returning a punt for a touchdown, and kicker Brandon Aubrey hit a 66-yard field goal, although it didn't count because of a delay game penalty. But shout out to him. Now, the Cowboys, after a convincing win over the Browns, they're at number 7. 6th, I've got the Bills. So the Bills remain at number 6 after their Week 1 win over the Cardinals 34-28. The Bills' offense was great. Josh Allen had 4 total touchdowns, 2 passing, 2 rushing. Now, Allen did hurt his hand, but he didn't miss any time in the game and should be good moving forward. Now, the receiver position for the Bills, which had been a major question heading into the season, didn't really have any true standouts, but rookie receiver Keon Coleman did lead the Bills with 54 yards on 4 catches. And then the Bills' defense wasn't great. They weren't terrible either. They allowed 28 points, but 7 of those points for the Cardinals came on a kickoff return touchdown. But the Bills, they were pretty good in their win. I've got them at number 6. Getting into the top 5, at number 5, I've got the Ravens. So the Ravens moved down 1 spot after their loss to the Chiefs 27-20. But the Ravens were a toe away from potentially tying or winning the game. And despite the loss, I think the Ravens played pretty well. Lamar Jackson was great with 273 passing yards and a touchdown, and also had 122 rushing yards. But Lamar Jackson did miss a few throws, including a potential game-tying touchdown to Zay Flowers. But overall, Lamar Jackson did play a pretty good game. New running back Derrick Henry was solid in his Ravens debut with 13 carries for 46 yards and a touchdown, but I'm surprised he wasn't used more, as he had 5 carries on the first drive of the game for the Ravens, but then only 8 carries the entire rest of the game. So I'm definitely surprised they didn't use Derrick Henry that much, and I would definitely expect them to use him more moving forward. Ravens tight end Isaiah Likely had an extremely surprising game with 9 catches for 111 yards and a touchdown, and was a couple inches away from having a second touchdown and would have potentially tied the game. Now, the Ravens' offensive line wasn't great, so that's a concern, and their defense wasn't great, but wasn't terrible either, although the defense was playing against a great Chiefs offense. But the Ravens, they're still a top 5 team in the NFL. I've got them at number 5. Number 4, I've got the Texans. So the Texans move up to number 4, but that's really just a result of me dropping the Ravens a spot. But the Texans beat the Colts 29-27, and they were great offensively. CJ Stroud was solid with 234 yards and 2 touchdowns. Receiver Nico Collins had a big game with 6 catches for 117 yards. And free agent addition Joe Mixon had a huge game on the ground, rushing 30 times for 159 yards and a touchdown. Now, the defense for the Texans was not very good, allowing 27 points and 7 yards per play, but the Texans did get the win, and I've got them at number 4. Number 3 is the Lions. So the Lions remained at number 3 after their 26-20 win over the Rams in overtime. The Lions offense did a great job running the ball, rushing for 163 yards and 2 touchdowns, while averaging 5.3 yards a carry. And they really leaned on the run game during their game-winning drive in overtime, as they ran the ball on 7 of the 8 plays that drive. The Lions' pass game was also good, as Jameson Williams had a big game with 5 catches for 121 yards and a touchdown, although Amon-Ra St. Brown was very quiet, with just 3 catches for 13 yards. And then the Lions' defense wasn't great. They were good against the run, but couldn't really stop the pass, as they had no answer for Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp. Stafford finished with over 300 yards passing, and Kupp finished with 14 catches for 110 yards and a touchdown. But the Lions, after a Week 1 win over a good Rams team, I've got them at number 3. Coming in at number 2, we have the 49ers. So the 49ers remain at 2 after their 32-19 win over the Jets, and they did that all without Christian McCaffrey. But despite not having McCaffrey, the run game was still great, as Jordan Mason, who got his first chance to really be the featured back in his NFL career, he was great as he finished the game with 28 carries for 147 yards and a touchdown, the best game of his career by far. Brock Purdy got off to a slow start, but ended up finishing with 231 yards. And then the 49ers defense was great, especially in the first half, as they held the Jets under 200 passing yards and under 100 rushing yards. And the 49ers are a great team. Even without Christian McCaffrey, they still convincingly beat the Jets, and they're at number 2. And at number 1, it is the Chiefs. They remain at 1 after a 27-20 win over the Ravens in the NFL season opener. The Chiefs played pretty well in the win. The offense looks really good now that they actually have receivers. Rashee Rice had 7 catches for 103 yards, and rookie receiver Xavier Worthy was great in his NFL debut with 3 touches for 68 yards and 2 touchdowns. Then the Chiefs' defense was solid, although they did struggle to stop Lamar Jackson as a runner, but the Chiefs, they won their season opener, and they remain at number 1. But those are my Week 2 NFL Power Rankings. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, turn on notifications so don't miss any other upcoming videos. I do my best to post as often as possible, and I will see you in the next video.